girl with a preppy vibe. Came to the spot with a friend of mine. She caught my eye. From the beginning, I was hooked. I can't tell a lie. Fresh, dressed, and fly. I respect her mind. Some dude trying to impress, but looking goofy at the same time. He bugging, she looking. I'm going for mine. Confidently, I approach with that eye-to-eye contact. She smiling while adjusting her hair, so I smile back. Pretty girl, what's your name? She said, is that true? Cause if it is, your name perfect for you. My name handsome. She said your name fits you too. See, we was clicking, and after that, time just flew. Then that time came to talk to her pops. He gave his blessing, and then that mind frame I had was honoring and protecting. I knew she was the one when we met. I found my future girl, and no other woman compares to my girl.
Hey y'all, welcome to the check-in. Happy Wednesday. I have been on the road. I have finally made it home. So yes, y'all, I'm back home with the Christmas tree. Okay, let me give y'all the vibes here. Okay, there she goes. Okay, so yes, I have a lot for us to talk about today. We're gonna talk about some Nancy Guthrie updates, Jesse Jackson, Don Lemon, ICE updates, a lot of different topics to cover tonight. And so, as you're coming in, please go ahead and like the live stream in order to help me get pushed to the algorithm a little bit more. And drop in the comments where you are from, okay? And with that, we're going to go ahead and get started with our first topic, which is the passing of the Reverend Jesse Jackson. He passed away yesterday at the age of 84 years old. Years young, yes. Definitely a civil rights icon. And I really liked how they interviewed his daughter and what she had to say, because she gave a different perspective of him as a parent, as a human being, if you will, and not the civil rights icon. So let's go ahead and get into that, okay?
Well, to millions of you around the world, Reverend Jesse Jackson, was an icon. He was an inspiration and a legend. We just heard that from Pierre. But to Santita Jackson, he was dad. I'm joined now by Reverend Jesse Jackson's daughter, singer and radio host Santita Jackson. It is an honor to have you with us.
I'm honored to be with you. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, we have been reflecting a lot on your father, the public Reverend Jesse Jackson. But if you don't mind, take us home with you. Tell us about Jesse Jackson, your dad.
Well, if I could, I would like to speak to something that you just spoke about in the previous segment. My father was a man of tremendous courage. Indeed, he was the most threatened political presidential candidate in history up to that point in time. And he
I
had
never
to
knew
get his
that.
Secret Service protection well in advance of the January 1st start date. I think it was either the first or second day that he was running. And he was part of a group of men and women who were willing to die for their beliefs. We walked into those campaigns really wondering if he was going to be alive. That was a very, very real issue that we dealt with as a family. And our father and mother were very, very serious about our religious moorings, about our religious grounding. Indeed, that was the first thing that was one last thing that your father will ask you to do before you go away to college. He said, one more thing. I want you to find a church. He said, baby, because the storms of life, they hit without warning. And if your soul is not anchored in the Lord, you'll never make it. And that is grounded in his deep, deep, deep belief in God and as a Christian. And so that's part of my experience of Jesse Jackson of Reverend Jesse Jackson as a father. But of course, I can think of the fact that he took parenting seriously. He took our family seriously. So because he faced so many death threats before he ran for president, quite frankly, his presidential runs to us were more of the same in terms of the threats to his life. He made everything special. Every Christmas, every Thanksgiving, every event, he would take us to work with him, not just in Chicago, but all around the country and all around the world, because he wanted us to see things. He said, I'm not going to leave you a lot of money. The money I've made, I follow Dr. King's example, I give it to the movement. But what I will try to do is give you a rich life, rich experiences where you're going to meet people, you're going to see things. Some of them will be famous, some of them will not be, but they will all be important. And so Like he didn't miss my prom night, my senior prom, which moved me greatly. He was on his way out of town to work, and he got to the airport and he said, "I can't miss my baby. I can't miss this." So when I heard him
Nice.
coming to my room, I screamed and screamed to my girlfriends. I said, "Oh my goodness, that's my daddy. Oh, any others are gonna miss this." I said, "Oh my goodness." And then my baby sister said, "Oh, look, he's gonna get married." My father said, "Be quiet. Don't say that." Oh, there was always a lot of humor with him. Um, but I have to tell you, just it's wonderful to have, because he will always be that wonderful father. You know, and I say that in this broader context because Black men in particular have been pummeled. They have really not, the truth has not been told about them. You know, the CDC came out with a study in 2014 or 2015 that showed that the most involved father in America indeed is the Black father. And my father wanted to be in our lives. He wanted to be present for us. That was a great present. He said, "The greatest present I can give you is my presence."
That's
And
right.
so there was never a day in my life where I didn't speak with him. Every secretary that he hired, he said, "You must always call me. Whatever I'm doing, when my children or my wife call, put them through. It doesn't matter. I don't care if I'm talking to Mike Walsh, Dan Rather, the president. You always
Okay, now.
put my children through." So I never, I always felt that he was present. And even now, I feel his presence. I feel his presence.
And by being present, it seems like you felt free to pursue everything that you loved. You're singing. My goodness, you shared the stage with Roberta Flack, an absolute legend. I'd love to know if he was able to get front row to a concert. But just and your even your journalism, your advocacy, your speaking engagements, you seem to be able to live the life that you really wanted to live, and he loved every moment of it.
And he was so encouraging. I remember I couldn't get nervous when I sang the national anthem at the Clinton inauguration in '97. Um, he always believed in me, sometimes more than I believed in myself. And if I wanted to switch careers midstream, which I did a few times in my life, he was very encouraging. He said, "Do you know what a Renaissance woman is, Santita?" I said, "Okay." My mother said, "Do you know what confusion is?" He said, "You have all of these gifts and you should use them all." I guess before it was fashionable, he was a girl dad. He told me
Okay.
he never wanted me to be beholden to a man or his money. He said, "If you marry, that's great." He said, "But a marriage is not an accomplishment. It's something you do. You can have a
Okay.
full life without that. What I want for you to do is to become the full human being that God sent you here to be." And he always encouraged that. But he did that with each one of us. My parents said that, our parents said that we don't love our children equally, we love them adequately. That is, each one of us had different gifts and challenges, and they met them. And he was
Okay.
never too busy to do that. He was always, always, always there. And
So she just said a word
I
because
know that to be
I'm sorry.
absent.
She just said a word because a lot of people don't understand. It's not about loving your kids equally. It's loving them in the way they need to be loved because every child is different. So I'm very glad to hear that he understood the assignment when it came to that. Let's keep it going because so far I can tell she really speaks very fondly of her father, and he seemed to have been a very present parent and very insightful at that as a girl dad.
In the body is to be present with the Lord. And that is what gives me so much comfort today, because he is no longer in pain. He's no longer suffering. He's no longer needing us to do anything for him because he was so independent.
Hmm.
He has run his race. He has completed his assignment. He was faithful to the assignment that Dr. King gave to him more than 60 years ago. And to that dream that he had to become a preacher, just like his grandfather. And And so all I can say is job well done.
I'll tell you, you seem to wrap it up perfectly there, but we found a really fun moment, Santita, and I hope you don't mind.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, I think you're going to get a kick out of this. You're going to remember this. You and your siblings weren't the only kids that your dad loved to spend time with. Do you remember this moment? Take a listen.
Ready on the stump? Yeah. Okay. Here we go. I am somebody. I am somebody. I may be poor. But I am somebody. I may be young. But I am somebody. I may be on welfare. But I am somebody. I may be small. But I am somebody.
Oh, what I would love to see your
So he was giving the kids affirmations before that became a popular thing, you know. That's what I call that. But yeah, that was cute. I don't recall ever seeing that, but I'm glad they decided to share it during this interview with his daughter.
reaction right now. That was such an iconic, there it is. There's that smile, that iconic moment on Sesame Street. And all those kids, a lot of people heard him and they believed him, including every single one of those children on Sesame Street. What do those words mean to you? I am somebody.
She's muted, y'all.
Oh, there we go. I'm going to take, yep, that's all right.
My father actually he grew up against the odds. He was born to a unwed teenage mother, a Black person in apartheid America in the Jim Crow South. And he had a lot of no's, and yet somehow or another
Clips like that.
he believed in himself. He believed in God, and he believed that God believed in him. I heard someone say that. And so when I see that clip, which I did see in real time, because that is my age group, I was very moved. I didn't quite understand it until I got older and saw the roadblocks that face many of us. I think as a woman, you can understand that as a Black person, as a Black woman. I mean, I think all of us have something. And he just wanted everyone to know that you matter. Even if you go home and you might be treated like you do not count. He wanted you to know that if there's just one person in your life who believes in you, know that I'm that one. And I think that he saved a lot of lives and he built a lot of people. He did a lot of good in this world. And for that, I'm just so grateful for his legacy that I pray will live on and on and on.
It will. Nice. So shout out to Reverend Jesse Jackson, 84 years of life well lived. Okay. So we're gonna move on to our next topic. We have another 84-year-old, Miss Nancy Guthrie. There has been some updates regarding her case, but she's still not been found. So first up, we have that the family has been cleared. A lot of people were saying that it was the daughter's husband that they thought, might have had something to do with it. But according to police, law enforcement, they have cleared the family. So let's get into that, y'all. Also, and shout out to the folks here supporting the channel. Mr. Lou, and you know it. Thank you for attending, and also those who are here watching as well.
So, the Pima County Sheriff's Department says none of Nancy Guthrie's family members are considered suspects in her disappearance. Quote, to be clear, the Guthrie family, to include all siblings and spouses, has been cleared as possible suspects in this case. The family has been nothing but cooperative and gracious and are victims in this case. To suggest otherwise is not only wrong, it is cruel. The Guthrie family are victims, plain and simple. Please, I'm begging you, the media, to honor your profession and report with some sense of compassion and professionalism. Our next guest was one of the investigators in the Laci Peterson case and says he suspected her husband Scott when he first met him. So what do investigators look for when they're ruling out family members. Let's ask retired Detective John Bueller. Detective, thank you so much for joining the program. I wanted you to take me back to that investigation. And you said this in an interview, and it really caught my attention. You said, referring to Scott, didn't mean he did it, but I was a little bit thrown off by his calm, cool demeanor, his lack of questioning. He wasn't, will you call me back? Can I have one of your cards? What are you guys doing now? What did you mean by that?
Well, Lawrence, this is typical whenever you're dealing with family members. You do a comparison of their behavior and their emotions, and if somebody stands out, it doesn't mean they were involved in the case, but it means you have to take a closer look at them, and that's what we had with Scott when it came to the Peterson case. Whether it was Sharon or Ron or any of Lacey's friends, Lori, Renee, Stacy, Kim. Everybody was just going crazy because they were frantic. They were constantly bombarding us with questions on what we were going to do to find Lacey. And when it came to Scott, he was always cooperative and he was always polite, pleasant to deal with, but he had no sense of urgency throughout that whole time we were dealing with him, and almost like no sense of interest. And that's probably exactly what the detectives here in Pima County are dealing with the family. And what a great statement from the sheriff to put that out there in such detail that they've been cleared. You can't flash these things around in the media all the time, but to put it out the way he did shows that they did a thorough investigation on the family and they cleared him.
So, Detective, explain to me, if you
Just to interject, they mentioned Lacey Peterson, and I wasn't familiar, but they're saying that she disappeared in 2002, and she was 27 years old and was pregnant, 8 months pregnant, and they found her body in the San Francisco Bay in 2003, and her husband was convicted of first-degree murder for Lacey, and then second-degree murder for their unborn son. He ended up being sentenced to death, but it was overturned due to jury issues. And so now he's doing life in prison. And so now he's part of the Los Angeles Innocence Project, and they're trying to I guess reopen the case and things of that nature. So for those who weren't familiar with Lacey Peterson, that's kind of the background on that. Let's get back to what they're talking about here.
have a suspect, if you don't have the full profile of the person, you don't have any of their correspondence, how do you clear a family member if you don't have the person that you're looking for just yet?
Well, one of the things that we look at is we look at background on people and do they have a criminal history. And in this case, it doesn't seem that anybody in the family's ever been involved in crime. So that's the first thing that you take a look at. Do they lead a lifestyle that would put them in a position where they would have to take advantage of a family member like Nancy in this case? And those are the first things that they probably did with all the family members, and were able to clear them tentatively on that. But when it comes to anything else on that, if a family member could have been involved in it, you're looking for an alibi, where he was, where she was, what they could have been doing. You try to verify that with other sources so that you can rule them out from doing the attack at the home like we saw in the video that has been put forth. And even like when the sheriff won't even put out there whether it was a forced entry or not a forced entry, wise decision on law enforcement not to put that out, because details like that are how you screen out people during interviews and interrogations further down the line when you focus on somebody in particular.
Detective, as you know, in law enforcement, we always say that the crime scene speaks to us. Explain to me how difficult it is, though, when you don't have the victim's body there, when you're trying to track them down. How much, a lot of people have made some comparison to your case and this case. Walk me through that.
Well, one of the things you look for, and this was true in the Peterson case, there was no evidence that anybody went into that house. We couldn't find anything that suggested anybody went into the house to abduct or attack Lacey, and I'm sure that's exactly what the detectives were doing in this place. They went in there, they did find foreign DNA in the house, but then what they have to do is they have to determine if that was from an abduction accomplice, or if it was maybe something as simple as an employee from a plumbing company that came to clear a drain or something like that. So what you do is you go to a crime scene. It isn't audible, but physical evidence will speak if you understand the language. And if you're looking for things like forced entry in the house, if there's no forced entry, that puts you on a different path. If you have forced entry, then that'll make you look in it in a different way. But when it comes to evidence that's left behind, whether it's trace evidence like fibers, fluids, blood, latent prints, anything like that, touch DNA, those are things that are searched for. And now the technology is to the point where it's much better than it was in my day, where they can get quicker results, more accurate results, and help them lead to somebody that might be in the system that they can identify.
Interesting. So, first of all, welcome to the live stream, Mr. James Ferris. Hey, let me say this. I'm glad they're not sharing all the details, because once they get someone in custody, which I'm hoping for, they really need to have a way to determine, do they really know, is this really the right person when they get those tips and whatnot? Because they do have a person saying, "Oh, I have insight as to who, has this woman." That's to come up later. But yeah, I've always said that I don't think they should be putting out all the details, because if you tell everything, how are you going to distinguish between somebody, not knowing what's really going on and pretend that they do or not? You know what I'm saying? So for those who are here hanging out, please like the video here so that we can push me out into the algorithm. All right. So next we have an interview with the sheriff that's kind of leading all of this. And I'm going to be upfront. I think some of his tactics don't really make sense to me, but I mean, I guess you know what he's doing. But let's get into his video and see what he has to say in this interview.
The same genetic genealogy testing that helped catch notorious killers is now playing a key role in the Nancy Guthrie case. Officials say this investigative tech was key in finding criminals like the Golden State Killer and, more recently, convicted Idaho killer Brian Koberger.
Let me say this. I did not know about these two previous unalivings. I did not know that people were using like genealogy things to help track and find these people. I never knew that until this situation. So I think that's very interesting. So I just wanted to point that out to y'all. Did you guys know they were doing that kind of thing with genealogy? I mean, because you will go ahead and sign up for like these DNA sites to find out your family history, and then find out, oh voila, this person is related to a person who killed someone in Idaho or whatever. Who would have thought they would have used that to help with investigations of killings and whatnot? So interesting to me.
All this as the Pima County Sheriff Chris Nanos reveals the results from the CODIS testing of the DNA evidence collected so far. Watch.
The DNA on the glove that was found 2 miles away was submitted for CODIS, and I just heard that CODIS had no hits.
Is there a match on the DNA in the glove to the DNA, the unknown DNA that you found in the house?
There's no match to the DNA at the house.
So entirely separate DNA?
Correct.
Okay, so that would mean, if there's no, is there a CODIS match from the DNA in the house?
No.
Our next guest is a retired FBI Assistant Special Agent in charge for Arizona who covers the Tucson area. John Weinarelli joins us now. John, thank you for joining us. You just heard that there.
So my understanding is that the CODIS database is like a federal database, if you will. So they didn't find any matches there, but they're going to try the genealogy tactic to see what can hit from that. So they have some different things moving. I just hate that they're not further along, but it's progressing, I guess, at the rate it's supposed to. Let's keep it going.
Across the board. What are investigators doing right now when it comes to this glove and the DNA that has been discovered, given these developments?
Well, the fact that the information is not in CODIS is not the end of the road. As you discussed, there's been a lot of ways DNA has been developed through the other systems out there, the 23andMe, Ancestry. Any person related to that individual who left their DNA behind at Nancy Guthrie's home, if they've ever taken that test, that DNA evidence is going to be out there, and it will link them to other relatives. It's just a matter of finding, is there any sort of connection? That's what the FBI and the Sheriff's Department are doing right now.
How long does that take, John?
Well, it can be a fairly quick process because the DNA has already been tested and it's in the system. Now, no one just gives information away. They have to get a court order. They have to get the agency that has the information to cooperate. But in this case, everybody seems to want to assist in any way they can. I
Right.
imagine we're going to see a fairly quick turnaround. We might even hear something within the next 24 or 48 hours.
Also, John, here's Sheriff Nanos with what appears to be a major admission that investigators have ruled out the theory that Nancy Guthrie's abduction was a burglary gone wrong. That is his current assessment. Listen to this.
Your
I
briefings, you believe it's a
was-
kidnapping?
I believe it was a kidnapping.
Targeted kidnapping.
Yes, I believe whoever did that knew what they were up to.
So do you believe
knew
there-
who they were after?
What do you make of that analysis?
I think law enforcement knows more than they've shared, and that makes sense. You always
Yeah.
want to hold details back that only the person responsible would know. We've heard that there might be multiple cameras, including the Ring camera out front that was taken. Perhaps they have other video surveillance that shows further action. Maybe they've gotten some information off that shows the type of items that were in that rather large and packed backpack. All of that leads them to believe that this wasn't just a burglary, but somebody who was looking to commit a nefarious act.
Okay, John, then why has every single law enforcement official that we've had on this program that's working this case or that is opining on the case saying this doesn't look like any kidnapping that they have ever seen in their entire career in law enforcement? Any thoughts on that, John?
It doesn't look like any kidnapping I've ever worked or seen either. Just because the person had a nefarious intent to do something doesn't mean they were organized or skilled in doing it. It certainly is not what you would expect. Normally, a kidnapping, you're looking for that profit. You're looking to communicate with the family and do it quietly, not through TMZ. So it is unusual. But the most important thing is all of this has to be worked to find Nancy Guthrie.
Yeah, and you know, if this is an organized kidnapping, did the kidnappers have her medication? Did they order it in advance to keep her alive? And if the ransom notes are in fact fake, then why did these kidnappers not reach out to the family yet? There are just so many questions that are still unanswered. But I do want to ask you, John, about this Tucson gun owner. Yesterday, he said that an FBI agent came to him and presented him with a list of names and images of people and asked him if anybody matching those names or images came to his store to buy a gun. And Sheriff Nanos is disputing that claim. Listen to this.
There are going to be many, many more setbacks than there will be advances in this case. The fact that that glove around 2 miles away from her home did not get a CODIS hit, okay, fine. We may have a good chance at the Arizona data bank, which has over 500,000 DNA profiles.
We've heard, for instance, the FBI is asking about 40 people at gun stores.
That's not true.
Okay, so have you narrowed it down to a few dozen, or are we?
We haven't narrowed it down to anything other than we have certain pieces of evidence that we're looking at to try to find this individual.
Yeah, that last clip, of course, the one we're focused.
So they were saying that, this person who has a store that sells pistols was asked about a list of people that may have bought anything from the store. And the sheriff that we just saw here is like, well, he don't think about that. So I don't know if the local enforcement are not, in communication with like the FBI or whatever, but it's just not making sense to me as to why he wouldn't be kind of aware of that. And also at this rate, why is this case still being handled by the local law enforcement? Does anybody have any insight on that? And, as Miss Nancy Grace also said, she was just saying how, the Arizona database for DNA may have, be more promising as far as seeing what, whose DNA was left on the scene, whose also DNA was in that glove found a couple miles away. So, I'm hoping that we're going to find something from this DNA aspect, but this is just crazy to me. We got Smooth Will here. Hey, welcome to the live stream, Smooth. We have Miss Mary Torber Hartley 3223. Let me pull this up. Okay, and she's saying this whole situation is weird. Yes, it is. And welcome to the live stream. It is very much so weird. For this person to have been possibly Well, they say they feel it's a targeted kidnapping and that the person may not have been organized or experienced, but at the rate that this is going, he seems pretty organized to me. He's not been found yet. It's been about 3 weeks now, right? And so the next thing we have here is where this person has donated $100,000 towards the reward of getting information to help find this Guthrie. So I thought it was kind of neat that someone wanted to donate to help, help move this along, because the TMZ had received another letter or email yesterday, I think it was, where the person was saying that they needed to get this money up front because, if they give out this information, they could possibly put themselves in harm's way. They need to lay low, all of that. And it's like, who's going to give you, 60 some $1,000 and not know if you really have legit information? And then, the person was saying, oh, well, I saw them at the top of the border and they told me to shut up. Do you not think they don't know who they told to shut up at the border? You already done gave yourself away, sir. Okay, let's let this keep going.
And what do you make of that denial?
Well, one thing I'm seeing here is that both the Sheriff's Department and the FBI have to get on the same page when it comes to speaking with the media.
Yes.
I'm the former spokesperson for the FBI nationally, and we do this all the time. No one should be speaking independently. It may very well be that the sheriff doesn't want to discuss what's going on with the investigation at this time, but importantly, if the FBI is going out and talking to people like that, that means they've made possible subjects. There's been a list prepared. It could be bringing us one step closer to resolving this case.
Yeah, I think if it looks like a list and walks like a list, it's a list. And
Right.
I understand what you're saying, that the sheriff there may not want to disclose certain things, but the report is out there. We will see if this turns out, in fact, to be the list where
Makes
the
sense.
suspect is on.
That's right.
Retired FBI assistant agent in charge for Arizona, John Weinarelli. Thank you, sir.
The reward for a tip that leads to an arrest and conviction in this case has now doubled. A donor from the Midwest offering his own money, a big chunk of it, to help solve this case that has gripped the nation.
Yeah, that's right. 12 News journalist Sean Rice spoke to him today. And Sean, this is a hefty check that is written to solve this case.
Yeah, absolutely. Milwaukee-based civil attorney Michael Whoopi tells me he's seen time and time again in his own community, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, how offering a substantial cash reward has helped solve some of the hardest to crack criminal cases. And now he's putting his own money, 100 grand of it, up in hopes it incentivizes someone who has key information to come forward and bring Nancy Guthrie home.
Now, y'all, that's awesome that this man took his own money, $100,000, and put it in the mail to the people out there in Arizona to try to help find this lady. And I don't want to speak, I don't want to say that out the way, but the Guthrie family, could have also tried that tactic to an extent, but I'm not here to judge. I understand people, got a missing parent, they're traumatized, but yes, yeah. I mean, I don't know, y'all. I'm gonna just keep it playing.
I sent them a check today.
Oh, wow. So you fronted the money.
Oh, yeah. That's the only way we do it.
A check from Milwaukee, Wisconsin is en route to Tucson, Arizona. Attorney Michael Whoopi is the president of Crime Stoppers in his own community, a vital resource allowing people to remain anonymous, report what they know, and solve crimes.
I paid $75,000 in rewards to people who solved the murder of 2 young girls. And I was just kind of unnerved by how the situation is being handled in Tucson.
With over 15,000 tips reported to the FBI and the Pima County Sheriff's Department, it's kept both agencies busy, executing multiple federal search warrants, interviewing several people, but releasing them all. 17 days in, no named suspects or persons of interest.
This way, there's no giving a Bitcoin in advance and having someone cheat you out of money.
Right.
It's paid for results. And that's what we can do. So I said, I'm going to step in. It's been too long.
Whoopi has sent his six-figure check to Tucson Crime Stoppers, also known as 88 Crime in southern Arizona. He explained how reporting information and potentially collecting his reward would work.
People call in with tips. They either call in or go to the P3 tip line, anonymously leave a tip. They're given a code number. If their tip pans out, they get to meet someone at an undisclosed location and receive a reward anonymously. And it gets people who don't want to be known to come forward.
But why offer a reward in a case nearly 2,000 miles away? He, like millions of others across the globe, feel just awful for the Guthrie family. Instead of sitting on the sidelines, he's stepping up, offering a message to Nancy's hurting loved ones.
Let me just say this. So I really think it's a good thing with him offering his $100,000. But for the gentleman that wrote into the TMZ, he was very particular about needing that Bitcoin, okay, to remain anonymous. Whereas with his approach here with the lawyer here saying, hey, we'll meet you in an undisclosed location to give you the money. I don't think that gentleman is going to even take that bait either. But, we'll see. Only time will tell. Let's keep it going.
Hang in there. We're trying something new here, and it might pan out. I hope it does.
So now there's two $100,000 rewards. The first we've told you about for several weeks now. That's the $100,000 FBI reward. It remains in place. You see the number here on the bottom right of your screen. Dial 1-800-CALL-FBI to report a tip to the FBI. Now, to report anonymously to gain Whoopi's reward with Tucson Crime Stoppers, you can call 520-882-7463, or you can visit 88crime.org online. Of course, this is an anonymous way. We'll send it back to you.
It's a very kind and generous gesture, and hopefully it leads to some arrest. All right. Thank you so much, Sean.
All right, y'all. So we have that right there. So we have in the chat here, we have LaVonda in the house. Hey, girl. Welcome to the check-in. Then Lou is saying, I don't know who you are. Okay. I don't know who you are. I don't know what you want. If you are looking for ransom, I can tell you I don't have money. But what I do have are a very particular set of skills. Skills I have acquired over a very long career. Skills that make me a nightmare for people like you. If you let my daughter go now, that'll be the end of it. I will not look for you. I will not pursue you. But if you don't, I will look for you. I will find you and I will unalive you. So that's from that's Liam Neeson, right? Is that Taken, that movie? Yes. So thank you for that quote, because every time I hear about this lady's kidnapping case, I think about that particular movie actually. So we do have a quick recap of what's going on with the DNA stuff. So let's go into that real fast.
Some breaking news right now on the Nancy Guthrie kidnapping. DNA from a glove found during a roadside search did not match any of the roughly 22 million samples in the national database. The Pima County Sheriff's Department says that there is more DNA from Guthrie's home that is being analyzed. Investigators say they are also focusing on Guthrie's pacemaker and trying to locate the device. They are also working with Walmart to identify and isolate the suspects seen in that doorbell video. Guthrie has now been missing for more than 2 weeks.
My. So y'all, as you guys know by now, when it comes to the pacemaker, they have this plane that can fly over an area and detect the frequency of the pacemaker. I think it's within maybe 50 feet or something like that. But what I did learn the other day is that even if the person is unalive, the pacemaker will still emit the frequency. So I thought that was interesting. But yes, I did not know about that technology either. So we're learning a lot about things that they can do, when it comes to, like, say, your ring light cameras, how they were able to put together that image, with layering, and how they're trying to use scratch methods to put together other things from the cameras in the back of the house and this technology with the pacemaker. So yeah, lots going on here with that. And so we're going to go ahead and we're going to switch from Miss Nancy Guthrie, and we're going to switch gears to Miss Pam Bondi and one of her testimonies from last week. It was quite interesting how this went. So let's get into that, y'all.
The gentleman from Georgia is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. General Bondi, it's been reported that there were at one point 1,000 personnel assigned to the task of identifying and scrubbing Donald Trump's name from the Epstein files. Were those reports accurate?
I believe his name has appeared countless times in the documents
how
that
many
have
people were
been released.
assigned?
If I could finish, I'm going to read you the stats.
I just simply asked whether or not it was true that it was 1,000 folks who were assigned that task. Were those reports accurate?
There are more than 500 attorneys and reviewers. I cannot give you an exact number.
And I wanted to ask you about that also, because this is a different question that you're getting to now. There were 500.
Can y'all believe this is what's going on in a congressional testimony? This type of banter? Like, I understand that I guess the congressman can reclaim their time and it's their time and they can speak, but this exchange is kind of bizarre to me, honestly.
DOJ lawyers and others assigned the task of redacting the appropriate information, including identities of the Epstein victim survivors from the Epstein files prior to their release. 500, is that correct?
If I could have finished my answer, there were more than 500 attorneys and reviewers who assisted with the. They asked the question and they don't want an answer.
That answers my question, ma'am, and I'm going to move on. I'm going to move on.
From
General Bondi, would you agree?
Be in order. The time belongs to the gentleman from Georgia.
General Bondi, would you agree that your 8 years of service as the state of Florida's Attorney General, the third largest state in the nation, served as an excellent preparation for your current role as Attorney General for the United States of America?
Not only that, I was a career prosecutor for 18 years.
And for
18 years.
And for 18 years,
he asked a question and doesn't want an answer. This is theatrics.
Well, no, for 18 years, you prosecuted serious felony cases, including drug cases, correct?
Oh, I prosecuted homicides. I prosecuted capital cases. I prosecuted domestic violence cases. I prosecuted multiple cases, and that's why I feel for all of these victims. And did you ask Merrick Garland this when you were sitting before him, sir?
You also prosecuted sexual assault cases and child sex trafficking cases, correct?
I answered that question earlier. I prosecuted multiple cases when I was a prosecutor.
Bottom line, you're an experienced and seasoned.
For 18 years.
Mr. Chairman, will you remind her of the rules? The time belongs to the member of the committee.
You are a seasoned and experienced prosecutor, correct?
I think we've established that.
Yes or no?
Does he want an answer or not?
I think he wants to say
I want a yes or no answer.
I think he wants to say
I want a yes or no answer, but I'll live with what you have already said. Let me ask you this question.
Clearly,
in the prosecution of sexual assault cases, you are acutely aware of how important it is to protect the identity of victims of sexual assault, correct?
I have addressed this multiple times. I think others were cutting me off when I was trying to.
Well, I just simply asked, are you aware of the fact that it's vitally important to protect the identity of sexual assault victims as you prosecute the people they accuse of assaulting them? Isn't that correct?
Excuse me. As we have said multiple times,
protection of the identity
of all victims
of the victims
are
is
protected.
So very
who are
important.
protected under? Do you want me to answer or do you want to interrupt?
Well, because you're not answering the question. You do a Jekyll and Hyde kind of routine around here. And I just want you to answer my questions.
What does Jekyll and Hyde mean? Can you
Well, it
explain
means
that?
you're nice to the
Explain
Republicans and you turn like Hyde on Democrats. But let me ask you this, ma'am. We have the Epstein victim survivors here today. Representative Jayapal asked a simple question: if you would be so kind and honorable as to turn around and face them and apologize to them for outing them. I mean, how many lives have been derailed because your department was either sloppy and incompetent or willfully trying to intimidate and punish these ladies
Your time
for
is
coming
up.
forward?
The time of the
Which
gentleman,
was it?
The time of the gentleman has expired.
Oh, y'all, just saw that. He asked her to turn around and apologize to the survivors who were outed because of the incompetence, as he said, of her staff in outing them. Oh my goodness. So they actually had the victims, or the survivors in the room while this was going on. That's crazy. Yes, and he said Jekyll and Hyde, and I will live with what you already have already said. Y'all. Mm. So next up, we have some Epstein stuff, where one more Epstein stuff, if you will, where they're talking about they showed some cool videos. If I don't say cool, they showed some videos that's in the files for Epstein. Now, I personally am not going to go through all those files. I had thought about it, but I don't have enough time, honestly. So let's get into what they have here that they thought was interesting to show us here. Let's do that.
Today, I want to take you through some rare footage buried in the Epstein files and an absolutely insane conspiracy gaining traction on the internet. Let's get right into it. Now, as you may be aware, we have been thoroughly combing through the recently released 3 million pages of the Epstein files so you don't have to. I want to show you some of the videos we have found that caught our attention, like this one of what appears to be an older man in a blue sweater and 3 other people, one of them redacted, watching presumably a woman dancing. Now, these 2 people have been redacted by the DOJ to protect their identity. We've replaced the music for copyright purposes, but other than that, this video is unchanged. Take a look. Now, we've played a couple of clips in the past videos from an interview Steve Bannon did with Jeffrey Epstein sometime in 2019, but we took the time to go through the nearly 2-hour interview and pull the footage that you may have never seen before. Remember, this is a video that was allegedly intended to help rehabilitate Jeffrey Epstein's image. In one question, Bannon asks Epstein about Wall Street. Pull the clip.
First got on the trading desk at Bear Stearns in the late 70s or mid 70s. Were you shocked by how little actual understanding of mathematics that the traders comprehended?
Yeah, well, again, we had a Texas Instrument calculator. Most stockbrokers, especially before 1975, if they were good stockbrokers, could add. That's about it. They could multiply. If you could multiply, you were already in the top 15% of stockbrokers. Stockbrokers simply meant there's a story. When I went to the first person, I had no money. And I said, how much money do you make a year? And he said, $400,000. I said, impossible. I'm making $10,000.
That's probably more than your family had made in its entire existence.
Yes. And he makes it in a year. I said, what do you do? And he said, it's too complicated for you to understand. He had a brother-in-law, in fact, in this case, who ran the pension fund at General Motors. His brother-in-law would call him and say, buy 1,000 IBM. He'd hang up the phone, he'd write it out on a ticket and walk it to a window. That was his entire skill set. Hello, write what my brother-in-law says, walk it to a ticket window.
Now, here is where he applies his thinking about Wall Street to world leaders.
You find most leaders financially illiterate, economically illiterate.
Again,
this man said that back in the day, if you knew how to add and subtract, you were good. If you knew how to multiply, you was in the top 15%. Huh. And now you have all these computers and whatnot that does quite a bit of that work for you, right? When it comes to, I guess, trading and buying stocks and whatnot. So yeah, he really got in at a good time, don't you think?
Political leaders don't come out of a background of finance. Most political leaders come out of a background of being popular. So in some of the countries, in some of the African countries, for example, they might have been a military person. They were a general. Or in our country, they would have been an actor. The knowledge of money isn't, they don't have expertise, they have no degrees in finance. They really, and this is one of the major problems. So many world leaders who don't really have a financial underpinning make fundamental errors when it comes to money on a country or institutional level. Many of them were just good at what they did in terms of politics. Remember, world leaders are politicians in general. They're not scientists, they're not intellectuals, they're not great thinkers, they're great politicians.
Now, for some context, Jeffrey Epstein was imprisoned in 2008 after pleading guilty to state charges of soliciting prostitution and soliciting a minor for prostitution. Here is his account of what it was like.
Solitary confinement, September 14th. And again, some of the public stories about the wonderful time I had in jail and my work release, which didn't come till months after. I'd been there since June, in an 8x10 cell with a bed in the back, a 6-foot bed in the back, a chrome sink with a toilet attached to it, and a little piece of metal sticking out that was supposed to act as a table. So in jail, I was in a place which was called the Special Housing Unit, which is for the roughest, toughest, meanest people. They had put me there, they said, for my own protection. So I was in an 8x10 cell with a little slit in the door where they would serve my food on a tray about 9 inches by 4 inches.
Can't do it.
And then as soon as I finished eating, they would take the tray and close it down. And one of the guards said, "Do you understand there's Wall Street's crashing?" "Sorry, Wall Street's crashing? What's happened?" And he said, "There's some crisis and some companies are going bankrupt." Yeah, it's all over the papers. We're all terrified we're going to lose our life savings because we have either a 401k or our pension funds. We don't know anything about money. Mr. Epstein, can you tell us, like, what's going on? Am I going to be able to afford my children's education? Am I going to be bankrupt like this company called Lehman Brothers? And there's another company in the front page today called Bear Stearns. "Oh no," I said.
Now this next part, pertaining to what life was like in prison, is very interesting. Roll the clip.
At the beginning, what were the comments?
It serves you fucking rich guys right that you're here next to me.
There was nothing about your crimes.
No.
So all this rumor you hear all the time about people in prison that commit the type of crimes you commit, you're saying in your personal thing is not true?
No.
It was all because you were rich?
Yes.
And it was all because they wanted to borrow money?
Or get advice. Yes.
What, they get advice to go long?
Yes,
Are you telling me
is this time to buy?
You're telling me in solitary confinement they're interested in going long?
Yeah. They want to know what
does that say about human nature?
Well, what I think people find, one of the reasons they wanted to keep me in solitary confinement was they're afraid that everybody would want to know which stocks to buy.
I want to take a break from that right now to show you some more rapid fire clips from the files, like this one where Epstein is seen chasing around 2 girls in the kitchen. You may have seen it before, but take a look.
Have y'all seen these clips? I haven't.
And this one of a redacted individual in what appears to be a bikini modeling. Now, earlier I mentioned some conspiracies, and I want to talk to you about what the internet has been cooking up, and this one is insane. I need to address something that's been blowing up online since these files started dropping, because every time these documents like this get released, the internet does what the internet does. So there's a claim circulating right now that the Epstein files reveal Ellen DeGeneres as, and I'm quoting this directly from the posts, Hollywood's most prolific cannibal, that she consumed human flesh. People are sharing distorted images of her face, writing paragraphs about underground dystopias, calling her a vampire. Now, these are completely unfounded claims with no evidence to back them up. So let's take a look at what's actually in the files. Ellen DeGeneres is named in the Epstein documents, and that part is real. Her name appears in the broader index of over 300 high-profile individuals that show up across the investigative materials. You know, flight logs, communications, third-party interviews, peripheral records. But here's the thing that people either don't understand or choose to ignore. Being referenced in an investigative file is not the same as being accused of a crime. There are plenty of names in the file that are just referenced by a third party. There is zero evidence in the Epstein files connecting Ellen DeGeneres to cannibalism or any other wrongdoing. That claim is completely fabricated. Community notes on the original X post flags it. The documents themselves contain nothing remotely close to it, something someone made it up, it sounded insane enough to go viral, and now millions of people have seen it presented as fact. And look, this is important to talk about because the potentially real stuff in these files is damning enough. There are genuine revelations in these documents about powerful people and what they did or didn't do. And when you flood spaces with potentially fake claims about cannibalism and vampires, you actually make it easier for the people who have real things to hide. Because now, anyone who brings up the Epstein files may get lumped in with the conspiracy crowd. That's how disinformation works. It doesn't just misinform the people who believe it, it discredits the people trying to talk about what's actually true. But what do you guys think? We read every comment as always. We love hearing your suggestions on videos or topics we should cover.
Okay, so Joseph, welcome to the live stream. So they're saying cannibalism. And so I looked it up real fast. And cannibalism is the act of consuming an individual of the same species. A behavior observed in over 1,500 animal species and occasionally in human history, often driven by nutritional needs, ritual, or pathological reasons. Yeah. So human cannibalism is the act or practice of humans eating the flesh or internal organs of other human beings. Oh Lord. Okay, that's what they was referring to in the video. So Joseph says no cannibalism going on. Yeah, I wouldn't think so. And he brings up a good point that just because someone's name is mentioned in the files doesn't mean that they were actually like, doing anything wrong. Like they may have been like a third party association type of thing. You know what I'm saying? So yes, but yeah, you also said, Joseph, I seriously doubt it, and you're referring to you're stupid if you hang all your hopes on the stock market. Exactly. Gotta have more than one stream of income, that's for sure. So this next thing we have here is Whoopi Goldberg and how she was mentioned in the Epstein file, but she was mentioned, in a third party way. Not that she ever went to the Epstein Island or anything like that, but yeah, someone else returned an email, and so she's kind of been lumped into all of this. And we're going to also get into things with Obama, Don Lemon, ICE, and all that coming up. So stay tuned. Joseph says, thanks for the shout out. Always. Yes, always. And you're welcome.
Now, in the name of transparency, can you put up my name is in the files? Yes, I'm getting dragged. People actually believe that I was with him. It's like, honey, come on.
Whoopi Goldberg explaining how her name ended up in the Epstein files.
I don't like surprises. I don't like stuff when it's pointed at me because it's a little bit uncomfortable.
3.5 million documents associated with the sex offender were made public by the Department of Justice in January. Whoopi's name shows up once in a 2013 email to Jeffrey Epstein from a redacted sender.
It says Whoopi needs a plane to get to Monaco. Julian Lennon's charity is paying for it. They don't want to charter, so they're looking for private owners. Here's the info. And they give all the information, and they're saying, do you want to offer your G2?
Yeah, it appears someone on behalf of Whoopi or Julian Lennon's charity, the White Feather Foundation, asked Epstein to borrow his personal jet to get Whoopi overseas for their annual ball. Epstein said no, and Whoopi says that was the end of it.
It's like, really? Really, that's the thing that's making you crazy? You know, it's like, let's get realistic. When I tell you people are trying to turn me into... I wasn't his girlfriend. I wasn't his friend.
You were too old for him.
And no, I didn't get on the plane. Because you know what I would have to do to get on the plane?
Fly.
They were trying to, yeah.
And she doesn't fly.
No, so they're trying
She's
to
a
get
bus
me.
babe.
They're trying to get me to get on a plane to get to this thing for Julian Lennon.
Even without Epstein's plane and a long-time fear of flying, Whoopi made it to Europe to host the event. Here she is with Julian Lennon and the Prince and Princess of Monaco.
Backlash is my life. The truth of the matter is, on any given day, half of the population of our country hates me. And that's okay. But I don't mind standing up for what I believe in.
Which, that's interesting, how she was mentioned, like, hey, we need to get Whoopi to Monaco for an event. Can we borrow your plane? And they have just kind of taken it to the next level with associating with this Epstein situation, knowing good and well that that's not what it is. Same thing with Ellen DeGeneres. Same thing with Miss Ellen DeGeneres and how they're trying to say she did cannibalism, but they have no proof. So, it's unfortunate you have people who are just mentioned haphazardly that are now being kind of associated with this foolishness when they were just, doing their own thing, minding their business, So Joseph says, cannibalism practice in New Guinea to extend life. I've never heard of that. Okay. I never heard of New Guinea. Where is that at, New Guinea? Let me see. To extend life. Never knew that. Okay, New Guinea, the world's second largest island located north of Australia in the South Pacific. Okay. Interesting. Today, years old, hearing about that. So we got Lou saying Miss Seeley talking about Miss Whoopi Goldberg. But yes, y'all, so a lot of celebrities are getting lumped in and associated with this Epstein thing. So I don't blame her for going on the record saying, hey, this is what my involvement was. Someone else mentioned my name for a plane. I never got on the plane. Never went over there. Like, you got to get the record straight. You know what I'm saying? So next up, we're gonna head over to Minneapolis for a hot second, y'all. So I think I told y'all a few weeks ago how, President Trump had said that for any hotel that won't house the ICE agents, he was going to take them off of the list for approved hotels for government travel. That's a big deal, right? So now hotels that house the ICE agents in Minneapolis are at risk of not getting their liquor licenses approved. So let's get into that. Crazy.
Two Minneapolis hotels are waiting to find out if their liquor licenses will be renewed.
A normally mundane process has become highly controversial after it was alleged the Canopy and the Depot allowed federal agents to stay there during Operation Metro Surge. Fox 9's Karen Scullin joins us now with what unfolded today in a city council committee hearing. Karen, tell us about it.
Well, critics say there was a big push by some Minneapolis council members to deny the two hotel liquor licenses, which some say there is no legal basis to do so. Over the last several weeks, there have been plenty of protests outside hotels alleged to have housed ICE agents. And now 2 of the hotel's liquor licenses are up for renewal, with some saying they shouldn't get them.
We believe that a liquor license is a privilege and that privilege should be reserved for businesses who keep the public safety in mind.
The Depot and Canopy are the 2 hotels at issue. Today, the City Council Committee of the Whole met to decide if there should be an investigation and therefore a delay on the vote for renewal.
Do we want to take a moment to do due process and investigate the situation that our constituents throughout the city have raised up as a grave concern or not? Right? That's what this is about.
But ultimately, that motion to delay the vote failed, with some saying there is no legal basis to deny the licenses.
As we've advised previously, there needs to be a connection between the licensed activity and the identified concerns.
And there's going to be, white supremacists staying at hotels. There's going to be, all kinds of things, prostitutes, drug addicts, whatever the case is.
And others said to deny would result in unwanted consequences and that workers would be impacted.
So the truth is there has been loss of business at these hotels. People have canceled because of the threat of losing their license. So that has happened. Reduction of hours has happened, as well as layoffs are planned.
So now there will be a vote on Thursday on whether these 2 prominent hotels get their liquor licenses renewed. Kelsey?
Now that's interesting right there. That's interesting. So these hotels are at risk of not getting a liquor license renewed because they provided, a place of rest for the ICE agents, which is going to impact the local community to an extent because they're not going to have people want to stay at the hotel. They've already said that, right? They're going to, have to reduce hours and all kind of things, right? Honestly, I don't know how they're going to support not renewing these liquor licenses. I mean, as a person, that's a consumer, you could just say, what, I'm no longer going to go to the hotels that are owned by Canopy or whoever else they said. You can do it that way. The same way that, the community has petitioned against Target for their DEI stuff. The same way you can not go to these hotels when you need somewhere to stay. You know what I'm saying? So I guess it's called a protest, if you will. When you choose not to patronize a certain establishment, you can just decide we're not going to support Canopy Hotel, whoever else, right? But I don't know if the liquor license thing is going to stick. But I am interested to find out what's going to happen with that. Now we have Joseph saying no hotel should knuckle under to Trump. Understood. I think that it's a business. It's a business. I mean, there's a lot of government travel going around, not with ICE agents. So your hotel not being on that list is definitely going to reduce your income to your overall, because Trump said that he was going to remove the whole franchise, if you will, the whole company, not just your hotel in Minneapolis, but like if say a Holiday Inn, so we're not going to support ICE agents, they're going to remove you from going to any Holiday Inn that you could ever go to for travel with the government, right? So that's a big deal. So I guess they can't win for losing here. Either you're going to get put off the government travel list, or you're going to end up not getting your liquor license if you have one that you need, because these people are figuring out ways to, impact you. So they're kind of in a tough spot, but it's a business. And you can always just choose to not support these hotels instead of going about it this way. But they're making a point, so I can't, blame them for that. Got my attention. So next up, we have these ICE agents that are being investigated because they shot a Venezuelan man, I think about a month or so ago. So let's get into that.
Here at 5, the Department of Justice is now investigating whether 2 ICE agents lied under oath about the shooting of a Venezuelan man in North Minneapolis last month. Those agents have now been put on administrative leave.
And this comes as the criminal charges in that case were just dropped. Prosecutors say the agent's story did not line up with the evidence.
And as Fox 9 investigator Nathan O'Neill explains, this is just the latest case to fall apart.
These dramatic scenes in North Minneapolis erupted last month after a man was shot in the leg during an encounter with immigration officers. But the narrative laid out by the feds has now unraveled in federal court. Within hours of the shooting, the Department of Homeland Security posted this, claiming its officer was being ambushed and attacked by men with a shovel or broomstick. Prosecutors later filed criminal charges against Alejandro Alhorna and Julio Sosa Solis, initially accusing them of aiding and abetting and assaulting a federal officer. But nearly a month later, the U.S. Attorney for Minnesota asked a federal judge to dismiss the charges outright, saying newly discovered evidence, including surveillance video, is, quote, materially inconsistent with the allegations.
When somebody other than the agents has to look at evidence and decide whether an assault happened, in the vast majority of situations, they're deciding, no, there's no evidence of an assault.
It's the latest case to unravel as the Trump administration repeatedly claims that its immigration officers are under attack.
Officers have been violently and aggressively assaulted.
But the Fox 9 investigators reviewed more than 100 cases where people were arrested, accused of attacking an immigration officer, but we found most of them don't hold up. In many of those cases, federal prosecutors either declined to bring charges, those charges were later dismissed because of insufficient evidence, or they failed to convince a grand jury that there was a crime actually committed. And in one case, a federal judge in Chicago wrote that the government, quote, swung and missed multiple times.
We have a number of demonstrably false claims where judges have found that Homeland Security agents were making misrepresentations about assaults.
Back here in Minnesota, the defense attorneys representing those 2 men called the dismissal of those charges extraordinary. And their families welcomed the move, saying, quote, the charges against them were based on lies by an ICE agent who recklessly shot into their home through a closed door. The families now calling for those ICE agents to be charged. For the Fox 9 investigators, I'm Nathan O'Neill.
Did they just say that the ICE agent?
I wanted to thank
I'm
all.
sorry. Did they not just say that the ICE agent shot through the door of somebody's home? My. Why would you shoot through the door, through a closed door? Had y'all heard about this? I hadn't heard about it. But apparently they're investigating these 2 ICE agents. And, you know, we're going to see what happens with this case because you just going to shoot through a closed door? I mean, I don't understand. I don't get it, y'all. So we have Don Lemon here who was in Minneapolis with the protesters, and he has a statement. And one thing that we've said, that I have said over the last few weeks is about how, you know, it's not always about the end state, right? Because when it comes to like Letitia James and these other people that have had to go to court due to things related to Trump, they may have been, you know, what's the word? They may not have been found to be at fault or anything, right, at the end, but they had to spend them coins to get there. So sometimes it's all about them having you spend your money. You know what I'm saying? So, and I think he's getting it here because he's saying it's all about the process. The punishment is in the process. Same thing what I'm saying about these other folks. It's all about them having you spend that money. You know what I'm saying? Because Trump has an endless amount of funds. He can do what he want to do, right? And not worry about, you know, well, I can sue you. I'm not worried about lawyer fees. You know what I'm saying? Because I have plenty of money. Like when he had that case where he won against someone that was on the news. I forgot the gentleman's name. He won the case, got lawyer's fees paid and everything. He donated the money to one of his foundations. Like that's how rich he is. So some of this stuff that he's doing is just on principle. You know what I'm saying? So we have Joseph saying unaliving after unaliving, assault after assault, kidnapping after kidnapping, lie after lie. Yeah. Yeah.
colleagues, the journalists around the world, Lemon Nation, of course, my family and my friends. You guys, you have shown up for me in very real way. And so I feel all of it and I am grateful for it. And as you know, we've all been doing this for a while. But for 30 years, I've been a journalist, and the power and protection of the First Amendment, I believe, has been the underpinning of my work. The First Amendment is there for a reason. It's first for a reason, freedom of the press, first for a reason, because it's the bedrock of our democracy. I believe without the freedom of the First Amendment of the Constitution, everything else just sort of wobbles and crumbles. And so I think that the events that happened before my arrest and what's happened since, it really shows what this administration, finally, that people are realizing what this administration is all about. And for them, you guys, and you can respond to this, the process is the punishment here. They don't care about the outcome. So like all the people in Minnesota, the great people in Minnesota and around the country, I just want to tell you and around the world, I'm not going to be intimidated. I'm not going to back down. I'm going to fight these baseless charges, and I'm not going to be silenced.
Okay, well, so yeah, he just pretty much said what I just said about the well, he said baseless charges, but I'm speaking more about the process. So he's gonna do what he has to do, y'all, to clear his name and his First Amendment right. But I can't wait to see how this plays out regarding people's right to worship versus his right to do his journalism. Like, you know, what's more important? You know what I'm saying? How do they choose to rule against this? That's what I'm interested in seeing. But anyway, y'all. So next up, I think I mentioned you guys on Monday how former President Obama did a podcast interview, and as part of the quick fire, he was asked about aliens and things of that nature. So I want us to kind of take a look at what he had to say about that, because the people out here in the internet world have been up in arms about it. What we got here? We have Joseph saying Lemon is lucky. Oh, Lemon is lucky. Savannah Guthrie's mom is not. I agree. I really do hope that that they find her and they find her well. I know I'm being overly optimistic, considering they found her blood at her on the doorstep and everything, leaving out the house. But I hope that they find her well, you know, and you know, with the gentleman providing the additional award money, I hope that people, you know, if you know something, you know, people, I get that the person is afraid of for themselves. I get it, but what happens to just doing what's right? You know, if you have the information, like provide it. You know what I'm saying? So I'm glad that TMZ said, you know what, we're not going to give any more updates regarding this person because we don't want to tip off, you know, the kidnappers, you know. So because basically, you know, if we, you know, keep giving updates, they'll know when we stop the hey, they must have gave information. They might choose to move or something. These people are long gone, whoever they are, in my opinion. So we'll just have to see what ends up happening when it comes to this. But yeah, and we'll see what happens with Lemon because he is lucky. I mean, he was able to get out on his own recognizance. If I'm understanding, no bond or bail was required. So we'll see what happens with that as well as Guthrie as well. I'm hoping that she's found, and I feel like the family being, you know, they haven't done as many of their videos. They must be given some information and they must be pleased with what they're seeing from behind the scenes with how they're progressing with this case, the legal teams, so or the law enforcement teams. So there must be something, you know, they're not sharing everything with us, right? So I'm hoping that they're getting good insight from the law enforcement so they're feeling comfortable with, you know, with the amount that they're not showing up. Like I saw a video today where Savannah's husband was coming from off the plane or something, and they were trying to get him to comment, and he would not. It was a great move. You know, don't say anything for real. Wait a minute, EBEs are real. EBEs are EB. What's the EBE, Joseph? What is the EBE? But yeah, hopefully they find her safe. And like I said, the husband not engaging with the media, that's a plus. So let's go ahead on to, oh, you talking about aliens are real? That's what you mean by EBEs?
Of the vote, you voted for aliens are real. So we're going to talk about it. Former President Obama going viral for his comments on extraterrestrial encounters. In an interview with Brian Tyler Cohen over the weekend, the former president got some attention when he proclaimed that aliens are real.
They're real, but I haven't seen them, and they're not being kept in, what is it?
Area 51?
Area 51. There's no underground facility unless there's this enormous conspiracy and they hid it from the President of the United States.
Okay, so he is clearing things up, saying in a post on Instagram that, quote, statistically, the universe is so vast that the odds are good there's life out there somewhere. But the distances between solar systems are so great that the chances we've been visited by aliens is low. Astrophysicist and ABC News contributor Hakeem Oluseyi joins us now for more. Hakeem, it is great to see you. When I first heard about this story, I thought we need to talk to a physicist about this. And there you are. Our booking team was on it. Okay, so the former president clarifying what he meant, but still suggesting there could be life out there. What would it take for scientists to confirm alien life?
Well, as I always say, the easiest confirmation of aliens show up and say, hi, here we are, right? But that's unlikely to happen. The reason why is because, when you talk about alien life, there's different levels to it. The conditions that are necessary on a planet to give you microbial life is likely widespread. It's probably also within our solar system. And there's evidence of that now on Mars. Then there's the possibility of multicellular life like we have here, which happened, 600 million years ago on Earth with the Ediacaran and the Cambrian explosion. You ended up with multicellular life. But getting to intelligence and technologically advanced civilizations, that is a completely other matter. I wouldn't be surprised if, even though I think the first two are incredibly likely, and I've done calculations that suggest that, the last one is nearly impossible, right? And so the chances that aliens have visited us is slim to none in my estimation.
So when scientists talk about alien life, break this down for us. What do they actually mean?
Well, at the very minimum, it's microbial life. Like just making that first step of a replicating, self-contained organic matter, chemical process is such a leap that if you get that, then everything else becomes possible. And what we see here on Earth is that it occurred very early in Earth's history. And now we have evidence on Mars. We see these long chain alkanes, these organic molecules that have been, reduced by radiation over millions of years, over hundreds of millions of years, and yet they're still there. That tells us that their abundance was even greater in the past. So, the evidence for microbial life is probably widespread, but the evidence for a technologically advanced civilization, which is what people think when we say aliens, that's the one that isn't likely. That's the one that's much less. It's likely in the universe, but in terms of them visiting us or us having their bodies, that is very unlikely.
Or living among us, right here on Earth. We may never know. But researchers have been looking into this for so many years. Where is the research focused right now in this field?
Well, right now,
Let me just stop real quick. So we have Joseph saying EBEs are real. And then he says, we traded humans for advanced technology in late 1962. Proof is the tech used in SR-71 aircraft. And he says, close encounter, most famous scene, a cinematic version, if the trade. Okay. Then we have Lou saying, the truth is out there. Okay. I want to believe. He says, we need Scully, Mulder, and Assistant Director Skinner on this now. Okay. And then he says, true, they had to build the SR-71 for the X-Men. Okay. Let's get back to this, y'all.
There are several pathways that are being simultaneously pursued. One is studying our own solar system, right? So we have sent lots of rovers to Mars. We have missions that are going to Jupiter's moon, Europa, and we have missions planned to go to Saturn's moon, Titan. Those are all wonderful places. Then we have the amazing James Webb Space Telescope that's able to take spectroscopy of basically taste the atmospheres of the planets around nearby stars. And chances are those planets were discovered by the TESS Observatory. So we can look at planets orbiting other stars, we can look at bodies within our own solar system, and we can do experiments ourselves here on Earth. And all of that is happening simultaneously. And the answer that we're getting is similar to what President Obama said, and that is life is probably out there. But again, it's not likely to come knocking.
Right. This is always so fascinating. Hakeem, thank you so much for your time. We'll have you back again because this is an ongoing conversation.
Yes, definitely fascinating. Yes, definitely fascinating. So Lou emailed me this next video, and it was about some women from Alabama. That's where I'm from, and being attacked in Belgium. So let me see what's going on in the chat, and then we're going to jump over into that along with a couple other items to discuss. So Lou says, laugh out loud, only the X-Men version can vertical take off and land. Lord. Okay, so Joseph says, SR-71 uses a fuel you can throw a match in and it snuffs out. It's used as coolant pumped through the plane. Cockpit hits 400 degrees Fahrenheit. Goes much faster than anything today. Okay. I can tell you I'm out of my element with what the SR-71 is. So that is let me see something real quick. What's SR-71? Y'all know I gotta go on here and look up something at least once a day. Once alive. Okay, SR-71. What is that? Oh, it's a long-range, high-altitude Mach 3 plus strategic reconnaissance aircraft. Okay, it's a type of plane. Okay. All right, I learned something new today. Learn something new. So let's get into this.
A birthday trip turned into a nightmare, you might say, for two Alabama women and their two 12-year-old daughters. They say they were on a train in Brussels, Belgium, when a man carrying an 18-inch knife tried to kill them. One of the women caught the interaction on video. WSFA 12 News anchor Rosie Langello shares her story.
Moments of terror.
Somebody help us. Go! There's a knife. Go! Somebody help!
This video shows Amanda Hardy, her friends, and their daughters running through a train in Brussels after a man approached the group. According to Hardy, the man first asked if they were American, then made another request.
He says, "Do you like ice?" And we do not respond. And his the next thing that he does is he draws a knife.
Hardy captured video of what she says was an approximately 8.
That is absolutely terrifying to be in another country. I mean, that could be in America and someone asking you your nationality and do you like ice? Like the ICE agents, like, do you like ice? And then pulling out, a weapon. That's traumatizing. Very much so.
18-inch knife the man was holding with a blue scarf. According to Hardy, the man also made another threatening statement.
We know he has a knife. He probably has a gun, considering he said, "I can shoot too."
Hardy says the group spent approximately 3 minutes trying to escape the train. They eventually made it outside, where they were left to process what had just occurred.
We don't know, how far he was chasing us, if he was chasing us, if he, disappeared into the crowd, if he sat down. There was a point where I did see him and he had, like I said, his scarf back on and he was standing there as if he had done nothing.
That same day, Hardy spent 40 minutes making calls to the U.S. Embassy, describing what had happened and requesting help with their travel plans.
And I'm literally pleading with our U.S. Embassy, saying, someone tried to kill us because we're American. Can you please get someone here? Can you please get someone here? But it ended with, it's the weekend. And if you have your passport, this is generally not something that we do.
Hardy also reported that while some police officers in Brussels were helpful, others provided no assistance when the group had to board the same train again to continue to Bruges. Despite the traumatic experience, Hardy is speaking out publicly because she wants to advocate for policy changes.
There needs to be a review and a change of emergency protocol when it involves children. We cannot abandon children in a foreign country when someone attempts to kill them simply because they're American. We have to do better.
Rosie Langello for WSFA 12 News, Montgomery.
Now, according to Hardy, Brussels.
So they said abandoning children. What is that? What's the abandoning children piece? Because wasn't the parents, the mothers with the daughters, like what was abandoned? Are they saying that because the embassy didn't come out to assist, and that's why they're saying the kids were abandoned? You know, I'm not tracking the abandonment part. If you understand, please let me know in the chat.
Police informed the group that the man was arrested and officers suspected that he was intoxicated. WSFA 12 News also reached out to the U.S. Embassy in Brussels and the Belgian Police Department for comment. We've not received a response to this ongoing investigation.
Yeah, that's crazy. You know what? At this juncture with everything going on, you know, I personally want to go over to Europe, but I mean, I'm hesitant on that with everything going on here. So, yeah, I may have to detain my trip to seeing the tulips. So we'll see, y'all. But yeah, Lou says yes because of the embassy. Talk about that. When you say yes, what are you referring to? Yes, because of the embassy. We have Joseph saying, okay, no, Lou says, laugh out loud, the Blackbird. Joseph says, JP5 fuel, aluminum titanium alloy, only 13 ever made because that's all the alloy we traded for. And we got Behavioral Finance, welcome to the live stream, saying, about time, where have you been? I've been online for an hour and a half. Yes. Yes. So next up, we have an assault of a USPS worker, and they have put up a $250,000 reward. Now, I'm not saying one is better than the other, but what I will say is, you know, it's interesting how they put up at least $250K, and then with Miss Guthrie, it was like what, $15K. Then they finally got up to $100,000, and then we have the Good Samaritan who's offered his own $100K. The lawyer we just talked about. Behavioral Finance says, get your vaccines before you're going overseas because it's a lot of outbreaks I've seen lately. Oh, no, I'm about to sit right here in America for a little bit. I'll be right here. But I appreciate the tip about the vaccines. So Lou says she is saying child abandonment because the embassy won't help the children. Okay. That's her take on that. Okay, I can see her angle. I can see that. For those who are still here, if you have not done so, please like, share, and subscribe, comment, support the channel. It is free. Appreciate y'all. But let's go ahead on to this next story about this person that worked for the USPS that was unalived while on duty. This is crazy.
Karen Greer developing tonight. There is a $250,000 reward in the search for the person who killed a U.S. Postal Service mail carrier. He was delivering mail in DeKalb County when someone opened fire on his mail truck. John 2's Taisha Fernandez live in DeKalb County, where the victim's co-workers are very concerned.
Karen and George, this is the post office on Wesley Chapel and Snapfinger Roads, and we're here because this is where DeQuavius Graves would get his mail truck, head out for his shift, and this is where he would return. Now, he was driving a mail van that looked just like this one. A spokesperson for USPS told us since the shooting, counselors have been at this location to comfort staff as police and other investigators try to figure out why someone killed a mail carrier on the job.
All I know is he was just on his route and he got shot.
Family of DeQuavius Graves, also known as Quay, can't figure out who would kill such a gentle soul, especially while Quay was just doing his job delivering mail Thursday night.
Whenever he walked into the room, you know, he just brings his energy, just bright smile. You can't not notice him.
When someone shot and killed Quay here on Oxford Drive, a neighbor's surveillance camera recorded this video. DeKalb County Police and federal investigators are using it to figure out if someone targeted the victim because of his job with the U.S. Postal Service or if there's some other motive. USPS is posting this reward flyer all over the DeKalb County neighborhood. Police have been canvassing since Thursday's shooting. They're offering $250,000 for information that leads to an arrest. Relatives say Quay was a hard worker and had been working for USPS for about 3 years. Co-workers showed up to his mom's house Sunday to pay their respects. They said they can't talk on camera about how much they enjoyed working with Quay because it's against union rules. However, they showed up.
They loved him. Like, I didn't know it was that much love for him. It was like he ran the post office because I didn't know he was that important.
I wanted to mention that USPS wasted no time joining this investigation with DeKalb County Police. They showed up to the shooting scene, and they're calling the gunman armed and dangerous. They don't want anyone approaching the suspect. They just hope anyone with information calls USPS, and hopefully they can get that reward. We're live in DeKalb County. Taisha Fernandez, Channel 2 Action.
That was so sad. That man was working, and they're gonna sit there and open fire on his post office van. That's crazy. I do hope that they figure out, what happened with that. I really do. I'm sure somebody saw something. I mean, but they did say he was delivering mail at night, which, depending on the route, and it gets darker earlier now too with our weather and everything, with our seasons. I mean, it could have been him doing mail delivery at 5 p.m. or something, and it's dark outside. Who knows? Now back to the comments. We have Lou saying, he went back. He's talking about the whole embassy thing with the ladies in Belgium. Her words, that's why I put it in quotes, playing the child abandonment card. Got you. Okay, so very sad about that gentleman that passed away from working with USPS. I do hope that they find who did it, and I like that USPS put that $250K reward. So hopefully they'll make some progress, on who did what. It's not gonna bring him back, right? But at least they can get some closure as to like why this was done. It's insane. So the next thing we have here is we have this this transgender woman went to her children's game and and just let it rip. Okay. This person ended up killing their ex-wife and one of the kids that she has. Very sad, y'all. Very sad. So let's get into that.
From Rhode Island, this terrible story. 3 people dead, including the attacker, after a shooting at a youth hockey game that was captured on camera. The shooting happened in Pawtucket, a few miles outside of Providence, yesterday afternoon. 3 more in critical condition at the hospital. Alexis McAdams has more on this. And the gunman. Alexis, good morning.
Bill, good morning. Yeah, this just keeps unfolding and the details are shocking and really tragic. There was just chaos inside of this ice rink out in Rhode Island during a high school hockey game after one of the hockey parents in the crowd pulled out a gun and opened fire, shooting members of his own family. Watch.
Hey.
I mean, you can hear the gunshots there just erupting. You can hear the echo inside of that indoor hockey rink out there in Pawtucket. And then what you see in that video is that people are running for cover there. They're trying to get off the ice. They're ducking and trying to get out of the way. Investigators have identified Robert Dorgan as the shooter. So I want to walk you through what we know about him. Just take a look here at this picture. This is from his social media profiles. They say he also went by Roberta, so Roberta Dorgan. And sources tell Fox he was dressed in women's clothing when he showed showed up to his son's hockey game yesterday afternoon. These pictures you're looking at are from months ago, Bill, but witnesses and people we've talked to who were at this hockey game say that this was something that happened pretty often, where he would show up in women's clothing. So according to documents obtained by our affiliate WPRI, Dorgan had a history of family disputes. So let's get into them. Some involving conflict over.
Let me just say this. I understand people wanting to live their truth and everything. I mean, I get it. But from looking at this image, and I know this image isn't what he had on the day of the event, his kids may have been somewhat embarrassed by him. And I think a lot of times, people want you to accept certain things that they're just not in a position to accept. These are children. And so he was saying he had a lot of family disputes about surrounding his transgenderism, right? Sometimes you just gotta be okay with people not fully accepting you as you want to be, especially when it comes to your teenage kids. I'm sure those kids may have gotten teased. I mean, you walking up in there looking like that. I'm not trying to say anything honest, but I'm just gonna say, like, I just hate that anyone had to lose their life because of this, when he could have just been, you know what, I love my family and everything, but I need to let them do them, and and not try to force my lifestyle or my way of being onto them. You know what I'm saying? Like, you want to force them into what your new world is. And I just think that's very unfortunate for these kids and the ex-wife, which I'm sure him becoming this transgender woman contributed to a divorce, probably. I mean, my goodness.
Identity because he had gender reassignment surgery back in 2020. So WPRI reports that in these court documents, his trans identity led to the divorce with his ex-wife, reportedly detailing, she said, that he had narcissistic and personality disorder traits along with the transition. So his social media profile's under investigation. I want to point this out. Just one day before he opened fire, he was defending trans Congresswoman Sarah McBride. He wrote this in part on X: "Keep bashing us, but do not wonder why we go berserk." So they're looking into all of these things on social media. As investigators say, it was a targeted attack. That's one thing they know for sure. Sources telling Fox it was a dispute within this family that led to the tragedy. So the gunman shows up, kills his ex-wife and one of his own kids at the hockey game. Police say 3 others are in the hospital fighting for their lives. And there really could have been more people that were killed, but a good Samaritan stepped in and tried to take this gunman down. Watch.
Thank God for that.
Police were on scene within a minute and a half of that call. A good Samaritan stepped in and interjected in this scene, and that's probably what led to a swift end of this tragic event.
And so what we know right now is that the mayor has said so far, Bill, they've interviewed dozens, maybe more than 100 people. They're going to look at all the different video and pieces together. The question is, how many weapons did this gunman have? We know at least one, and it could have been a lot worse if this other person at the game wouldn't have stepped in and taken that shooter down. So we'll keep an eye on it.
Sure, yeah, and all caught on camera too. Terrible. Alexis, thank you for that.
And Paul Morrow is still with us. Can you give us a sense of, well, I know that you're a hockey guy.
Yeah.
You grew up on the rink, your nephews play on the rink, and it's hard for all parents to watch what happened.
Yeah, very, very tough. I would say a couple of things. There's some reporting that he had more than one gun. I go to the guns because one of the things we always hear is red flag laws, all right? People who are mentally ill, and by the way, strong Second Amendment advocates agree with that. Crazy people shouldn't have guns. That's how somebody recently put it to me, who's very active in that community. This person, by their own daughter's statements after this event, was severely mentally ill and yet had these weapons. And, look, not all trans people are shooters. Nobody is saying that. But at some point, we're going to have to accept the evidence here that there's something going on with the medication that is involved in transitioning that creates this kind of anger and disassociation. And I'm sorry, but the fact that you have red flag laws means that you need to use them. And this guy very clearly was telegraphing in bright red lights, problem. I'd like to know if the guns were legal, how we got them. That should be a line of inquiry here.
Fair questions. Thank you, Paul. This is coming a couple days after the situation in British Columbia, Canada, too,
right.
with an 18-year-old. Thank you, Paul, and welcome back here, okay?
Thank you.
That is just so sad, y'all. And so this gentleman is saying that maybe there's something going on with the medication provided with the gender reassignment surgery. I've never heard of that theory, but I don't know. So we have Joseph saying BS, more MAGA propaganda. Gotcha. Yeah, I have never heard about the reassignment surgery medications having that kind of a side effect is what I was, as how I'm gonna phrase that. But I don't know. But my condolences to those who were harmed in this unfortunate tragedy. And I wish they could have been able to resolve whatever issues they had within the family. And I hope the people who are fighting for their life, those three, that they, recover and be healed and be made whole. I do hope that for them. It's going to be traumatic if they do, but still want them to be made whole and to continue to be able to have a full life, beyond this, if possible. But we also have another video. This also came from Mr. Lou. So he sent 2 videos. Thank you for the content. And this is about prostitution becoming legalized. Never thought I would ever hear that. So Janet Vasquez, welcome to the live stream, says do research. So do research on what the side effects of gender reassignment medications. Let's see what I can find real quick. Let's see. So it says for gender affirming hormone therapy carries risks that differ by regimen, feminizing therapy, estrogen, anti-androgens. Risks include venous thromboembolism, cardiovascular issues, hyperprolactinemia, and weight gain. Masculinizing therapy, testosterone risk includes erythrocytosis, acne, weight gain, dyslipidemia, and in some cases, cardiovascular issues. They do say there could be mood side effects when you do the masculinizing hormone therapy side effects. Emotional fluctuations, including in some cases exacerbation of pre-existing depression. Okay. Is there anything for the feminizing? Okay, so not sure if that's what was meant, but so we have Joseph saying, I have Janet. You are ignorant troll, Janet. He says, I have multiple degrees in real science. I heard that. All right, so let me go ahead and show y'all this last video that I have regarding legalization of prostitution. Never ever thought I would ever hear those 2 words in sequence. Let's get into it.
Could prostitution be legal in Colorado? There is a bill moving through the Colorado Senate that would decriminalize it. And if it's approved, Colorado would become the first state in the U.S. to fully decriminalize it. Our 90s legal expert Whitney Traylor joins us now. Thanks for coming in.
Sure. Happy to be here.
It's kind of wild to be talking about.
Yeah.
So first, tell us a little bit about this bill. What would be allowed and what wouldn't?
Yeah, so this bill would decriminalize prostitution. So that means actually selling sex and actually those who are soliciting it. So it would take away those criminal penalties. It would also, this is something that I think is important and I think may get some pushback. It will also prevent local counties and local governments from enacting their own laws to outlaw prostitution. So it will be statewide, it will be lawful. So it will still be unlawful to pander, which is to pressure someone to commit sexual acts that they don't want to consensually do. And it will also still outlaw pimping.
What's the reasoning for decriminalizing prostitution?
Well, it's interesting, and there were 4 Democrat sponsors of this bill, and the one primary sponsor, he said that people had come to him, he's out of Pueblo, and he said folks had come to him, sex workers, and said that it's dangerous, and after hearing their stories, he felt that decriminalizing it would actually make it safer, may make it, human trafficking is still unlawful, so it may make distinctions there. So, you know, this is how our representative government works. Somebody comes in and says, hey, here's an issue that we need a law, and then the lawmaker goes and passes that law. And he actually said when there is a hearing and you hear some of these people testify, that it will be persuasive.
Okay. Now, other states like Nevada have practically decriminalized it, but
Yes.
this would go a little bit further, right?
This would go further. So there's a couple states that go very far. So most people think about Nevada, but Nevada, it's still, there's certain counties that they have outlawed prostitution, so it's not statewide. And then it's specifically regulated for houses of prostitution or brothels. So here it would just be across the board. And Maine is another place where they have said that selling sex is lawful, but soliciting sex is unlawful. And so they could go after the men who are seeking the prostitution, but the women who are performing the sex acts, they don't have criminal activity, and that was for safety reasons too. So those are 2 states that have went very far, but if Colorado passes this law, it will be the farthest in the country.
All right, so if this passes, what's the timeline, and do you expect any litigation around it?
I do think there would be some litigation if it passes. Some folks arguing the constitutionality of it. I think it's supposed to go in effective immediately, so I suspect it would be in effect by July. So it will
This
be,
July?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, if it passes. So I'm not sure. Obviously, we have a Democrat-controlled legislature and obviously a Democrat governor. The governor has not indicated whether or not he would sign this if it did pass, and I'm not sure what other Democrat-led representatives, how they feel about it. So even though there's 4 Democrat sponsors on it.
Do you expect any unintended consequences if this law does pass?
That's a good question. Yes, I do think there will be some unintended consequences. I mean, some folks are saying, well, the social normalization is then sort of putting our moral compass a little further along. And some people could argue, well, we now have gambling in the state, we have legalized marijuana, we have mushrooms, now we may have prostitution. So some people may say, hey, we're becoming Sin City.
Right.
In many respects. And it's a question if the laws keep getting pushed. That's the Second Amendment folks' argument is, hey, if you limit my gun just a little bit here, you're going to keep pushing. And so the question is, hey, will we keep pushing in towards this sort of morally amorphous area?
Yeah. How far will the pendulum swing?
Yes, exactly right. So,
see.
yeah, that's potentially one.
It's very interesting. When you sent your list of ideas for this week, I saw this one and I was like, what? We got to talk about that.
Yes.
So keep your eye on it. Let us know what happens.
Yeah, we'll know. It'll go to committee, and then it will go, if it gets out of the committee, which it's a 5-2 committee where it's first 5 Democrats and 2 Republicans. So it probably will get out of committee, and then we'll see what the rest of the legislature does.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Whitney, as always, thank you.
All right, y'all. So I guess we'll find out what Colorado decides to do in regards to legalizing that profession. And he says going to make it safer, right? So we'll see how this pans out. Didn't know that Maine had something similar, not quite to that extent, but something similar set up where it's not illegal for the worker, but it is for the person that's patronizing for the services. Did not know that. So we have Joseph saying, how do you think I know about the science if SR 71 tech, Janet? He also said safer for X work, which thanks to Republican economic damage makes necessary. Okay. Janet says, what specifically you study? Science has been studying many diseases for years and have not cured anything. Joseph says, so nothing to say, Janet? Did I overstrain your tiny brain? Joseph says, so measles, mumps, cholera, tuberculosis, not diseases cured, tiny brain, Janet? Lord have mercy, y'all something else. But y'all check this out. I will be back tomorrow with Unfiltered Conversations. If there's any kind of update with Miss Guthrie, I will include that. But I'll also be having some more some different type of topics for the Unfiltered Conversations. Be a little bit different than our mainstream news stuff. But if there's anything that's really like urgent, we're gonna talk about it and we're gonna get back to our other topics, right? But anyway, y'all, so far as you guys have been, if you've been here for the whole thing, we talked about Nancy Guthrie updates, Don Lemon, Miss Bondi, Jesse Jackson and his passing, Obama and the aliens, all types of things. If you catch the replay, please make sure you put something in the comments. Let me know you saw the replay. What was your most interesting topic that we covered for the night? And I'll be back tomorrow, 7:15 p.m. Eastern. If you have not done so, please go ahead and like, share, comment, and subscribe. Support the channel. It is free. And with that, I will see you all on tomorrow night. All right, Joseph, I look forward to having you tomorrow as well. Bye.